Look at what has happened over the last few weeks since this crisis began. While the president has continued to say this is an Iraqi problem, this is an Iraqi problem, but it's a United States problem, and it is a threat to our national security. And I say that with the full backing or the quotes from our Director of National Intelligence, our Secretary of Homeland Security, the Director of the FBI, and even the Attorney General of the United States. This is turning into, as we had predicted for a long time, a regional conflict, which does pose a threat to the security of the United States of America.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. And it's Malzberg panel time. LIGNET Chief Analyst Fred Fleitz and founder of the Investigative Project on Terrorism, Steve Emerson. And gentlemen, I want to ask you and start with you, Fred. The president claims that this kind of all came as a surprise, yet there have been reports for weeks that go way back that cite intelligence noting that this was coming. Is that not correct? Is the president not misstating the facts?
Steve, it's great to be on the show. That's exactly right. Let's keep in mind that ISIS took control of 2 Iraqi cities in December. The DIA chief warned that ISIS was going to take more Iraqi cities in testimony to Congress in February. I really find it incomprehensible that the president is now claiming he wasn't given adequate warning. Intelligence can only go so far. I mean, there's limits to what it can predict, but there was more than adequate information just in the news media about this evolving threat.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, I mean, you know, we've talked about this, as Fred and I have, for a long, long time. And here again, the president passing the buck when it comes to dealing with Islamic terrorism.
Well, I couldn't agree more with Fred's comments, and you could see how he passed the buck in the interview that he gave to his hagiographer, Tom Friedman, in Saturday's New York Times, when the word Islamic terrorism was never mentioned at once, not once at all. And the only thing he could muster up was to caution or to criticize Israel for, not making peace, saying that Netanyahu was too strong, but never once mentioning the Islamic terrorist threat that is really posed and growing out of proportion. Last night I was on Fox, and I talked about a new story that just came out of Germany. August 7th, ISIS supporters in a city in southern Germany attacked the Yazidi community, trying to kill them. And the outrage in the local papers was unprecedented, saying, quote, Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, IL, and Hamas are no different at all, and they are a threat that we face and the U.S. faces. And that's very true.
Absolutely. And Fred, let me ask you about that interview. First of all, actually another interview, Hillary, her attempt to distance herself on this mess and foreign policy from Barack Obama, saying that the U.S.'s failure to act in Syria created a vacuum for jihad. The president responding, the White House responding, saying that Hillary was fully on board with the policy regarding Syria, from the get-go. So now we have this interesting battle erupting between the two. And do you believe that Hillary objected at the time to the inaction on Syria? Because she certainly didn't do it publicly at the time.
I think she was fully on board. I think Hillary Clinton's approach to this situation in Syria has always been to work multilaterally and not to do anything without our allies. I've never seen any indication she wasn't fully on board.
And Steve, the inaction. Talk about the inaction. And remember when, at the beginning of this, if you take it back to a couple of months ago, when the ISIS troops, if you will, or terrorists, whatever, units were forming, and the Iraqi government begged for airstrikes, because then there was a target to hit. You had them all, in one area, and this administration did absolutely nothing. And we've seen what's happened in Iraq since they did nothing.
Well, it only gave them time to strategically, distance themselves, put themselves in positions, build probably underground bunkers and tunnels like Hamas has done to protect themselves and shield themselves from potential strikes. So he only gave them, intelligence they needed to protect themselves. We have no idea at this point of the success or lack of of these strikes. And there are no TV cameras on the other side, as there were and have been in the Gaza-Israel conflict.
Right.
So we don't know what's going on. We don't know if just civilians are being killed. We don't know how many successful strikes there are. We're just given a couple of aerial shots from, our fighters. That's it. So, frankly, you're right. I mean, at this point, we have no idea as to the effectiveness of these strikes. And my gut feeling is they were given such a headstrong warning about what might be coming down the pike, is that they strategically prepared for these.
Right. And Fred, you wrote a great piece today about protecting the Kurds and defending the Kurds despite the other failures in Iraq, that we must do that. And there's a report today that the Kurdish forces have retake 2 towns from ISIS in northern Iraq. And I understand that we will be, at least I heard a report today, we will be providing arms for the Kurds. So these are encouraging developments?
It's very encouraging that we finally decided to send weapons directly to the Kurds and not send these weapons through Baghdad. Well, let's keep in mind the military operations we're conducting are very limited. They're only in northern Iraq. They're limited to humanitarian goals and protecting U.S. troops. We need to destroy ISIS, attacking it across the country and bombing its headquarters in Syria. If we don't do that, frankly, the operation we're conducting is not serious.
And Steve, there was a guy arrested. There was a report this morning of a man arrested at JFK, I believe. He was coming from Germany or going back to Germany, an American citizen who had been supporting, at least tweeting and whatnot, support of ISIS. This is a big fear, is it not? ISIS' ability to send people over here on Western passports and hit us.
Well, I mean, already Europe has experienced this in Germany, in France, in Belgium. The hundreds of veterans from Iraq and Iran, from ISIS and ISIL, who've come back to those countries, and of course, there are dozens who've come back to the United States. Remember the report of the 23-year-old Muslim kid from Florida who carried out a suicide bombing in Syria. There was another report that I saw yesterday of an American-German 24-year-old posting a video threatening to blow up U.S. nuclear facilities in Germany itself. So the threats are real, and the number of tweets that we have seen coming from ISIS supporters in the United States is extraordinary.
Yeah. All right, stay where you are, guys. We're coming back with part 2 of the panel. Don't go away. Steve and Fred will join us right after the break. And stay tuned for your Newsmax Now update coming up next on the Steve Malzberg Show.